The morning sun cast long shadows across the United Earth Command headquarters as Admiral Kane reviewed the most important message in human history. 3 months ago, the Galactic Peace Council had extended an invitation to Earth, a formal welcome to join the civilized species of the galaxy. The message spoke of trade, knowledge sharing, and peaceful cooperation among the stars. Captain Torres stood beside the massive viewing screen, watching the final preparations of humanity's first diplomatic fleet. 5 sleek vessels gleamed in Earth's orbit, their hulls polished to mirror brightness. These ships represented humanity's best advanced engines, comfortable quarters for diplomats, and minimal defensive capabilities. The Council had been very clear about this last point. No weapons above Class II defensive systems. Torres read from the official guidelines. The Council views military displays as primitive and threatening to peaceful negotiations. Admiral Kane nodded, though something deep in his gut felt wrong. 40 years of military service had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now they screamed danger. But the politicians were clear. This was humanity's chance to join a galaxy-spanning civilization. They couldn't afford to mess it up. Dr. Webb, Earth's lead xenobiologist, entered the briefing room with excitement radiating from every step. She had spent decades studying the few alien artifacts that had drifted into human space, dreaming of this moment. The Council's preliminary data showed dozens of species living in harmony, sharing technology that could solve Earth's energy crisis, cure diseases, and open the stars to human exploration. The Council species had been spacefaring for thousands of years, she explained to the gathered diplomats. They've moved beyond war, beyond conflict. Their society is built on mutual respect and shared knowledge. Ambassador Clark, a veteran negotiator who had brokered peace between Earth's remaining nation-states, felt the weight of history on his shoulders. He would lead humanity's delegation, carrying hopes and dreams of 8 billion people. The Council had promised to share their faster-than-light technology, their medical advances, and their wisdom gained from millennia of peaceful coexistence. But Admiral Kane couldn't shake his unease. In the deep archives of military intelligence, there were disturbing patterns. Ships that vanished near the galaxy's edge. Distress signals that cut off mid-transmission. Entire solar systems that showed signs of advanced civilization, but now remained silent. The official reports blamed natural disasters. But Kane saw something else, the systematic elimination of emerging species. The Titan-class warship, Vengeance, floated in the shadows behind Earth's moon, hidden from the diplomatic fleet's sensors. Admiral Kane had ordered its construction in secret, against direct orders from the civilian government. If the Council proved peaceful, no one would ever know it existed. But if his fears proved correct, humanity would need every advantage it could get. The ship was a monster of human engineering, 3 kilometers of armored hull, quantum torpedo arrays, and experimental plasma cannons that could crack a planet. It carried the best of Earth's military forces, veterans who had cut their teeth in the asteroid wars and the Jupiter Colonies rebellion. These weren't diplomats or scientists. They were warriors bred for the black void of space. Captain Rivers commanded the Vengeance, and she understood the weight of her orders. Stay hidden. Monitor the diplomatic mission. If things went wrong, Earth's survival might depend on what happened next. The crew had volunteered for a mission they hoped would never begin, carrying weapons they prayed they'd never use. As the diplomatic fleet prepared for departure, Earth cities buzzed with excitement. Children painted pictures of friendly aliens. Scientists dreamed of technological marvels, and world leaders prepared speeches for humanity's grand entrance onto the galactic stage. The news media showed endless loops of the sleek diplomatic vessels, symbols of humanity's peaceful intentions. Ambassador Clark made his final preparations, studying cultural briefings on Council species and rehearsing humanity's introduction to galactic civilization. The weight of speaking for his entire species pressed down on him but hope kept him strong. This was the moment humans had dreamed of since first looking up at the stars. The engines of the diplomatic fleet ignited with brilliant blue flames, pushing the ships toward their rendezvous with destiny. Behind them, Earth watched with held breath. Ahead of them, the Council's coordinates promised a new age of peace and prosperity. But in the shadows of space, the Vengeance followed at a distance, its crew hoping they were wrong about everything. They'd trained for. Admiral Kane's final orders were simple: if the diplomatic mission succeeded, return home in silence. If it failed, make sure the galaxy remembered that humanity would not go quietly into the dark. The first chapter of humanity's galactic story was about to begin, though none of them knew whether it would be written in words of peace or letters of fire. Asterisk, the diplomatic fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the designated coordinates, and Ambassador Clark felt his breath catch in his throat. Before them stretched a massive space station, easily the size of Earth's moon, its surface gleaming with lights from a dozen different architectural styles. Ships from various species docked at countless ports, creating a bustling hub of galactic civilization. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. Webb, pressing her face against the observation deck's transparent aluminum. The station rotated slowly, generating artificial gravity for its inhabitants, and the scale of engineering required left the human delegation speechless. A transmission crackled through their communications array, spoken in perfect English by a melodious voice. "Welcome, children of Earth. I am Speaker Voss of the Council. We have waited long for this meeting." The humans exchanged excited glances. Everything seemed exactly as promised: peaceful, advanced, and welcoming. Their ships were guided to a docking bay that adjusted itself to accommodate human atmospheric requirements, showing the Council's thoughtfulness and technical mastery. Speaker Voss met them at the airlock, and Clark was struck by the being's appearance, tall and graceful. With pale blue skin and large, intelligent eyes, Voss seemed to radiate calm wisdom. Other Council species moved through the station corridors, some humanoid, others completely alien, but all moving with the quiet confidence of an advanced civilization. "Your species shows great promise," Voss explained as they walked through corridors lined with artwork from across the galaxy. "We have observed your recent unity, your scientific achievements, your desire to reach beyond your world. These are the qualities we seek in new Council members." Dr. Webb peppered their guide with questions about technology, culture, and history. Each answer painted a picture of galactic society that exceeded humanity's wildest dreams. Medical techniques that could extend human life by centuries. Energy sources that could power civilizations without environmental cost. And transportation networks that connected thousands of worlds. But as the tour continued, Captain Torres noticed something that made his military training itch with concern. Despite the diversity of species, they all moved with the same subtle mannerisms, spoke with similar rhythms, and showed identical reactions to certain topics. It was as if they were all reading from the same script. The formal presentation began in a vast amphitheater, with representatives from dozens of species arranged in tiered seating. Speaker Voss introduced humanity to the gathered council, describing Earth's potential contributions to galactic civilization. The humans presented gifts of art, music, and literature, receiving polite appreciation from the alien audience. "To join our council," Voss explained, "there is but one requirement. Your species must demonstrate its commitment to peace by decommissioning all military vessels and weapons. War is a primitive concept that has no place in civilized society." Ambassador Clark felt excitement surge through him. This was exactly what Earth's leaders had hoped for: end to the cycle of violence that had plagued humanity for millennia. "We are prepared to begin this process immediately," he declared, and the council responded with what seemed like genuine approval. But then Dr. Webb asked the question that changed everything. We've detected traces of several extinct civilizations. In our sector, what happened to them? The amphitheater fell silent. Speaker Voss's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered behind those large, intelligent eyes. Not all species prove capable of joining our peaceful society, came the careful response. Some remain too primitive, too violent. They remove themselves from the equation. Captain Torres felt ice form in his stomach. The phrasing was too clinical, too practiced. Remove themselves how? Internal conflicts, resource depletion, natural disasters, Voss replied smoothly. It is unfortunate, but inevitable for species that cannot evolve beyond their aggressive natures. The human delegation exchanged glances, and Clark saw his own growing suspicion reflected in their faces. The tour continued, but now they noticed details that had been invisible before. The subtle fear in the eyes of some alien species when they looked at certain council members. The way conversations stopped when humans approached. The complete absence of any military technology, even for defensive purposes. That night, in their assigned quarters, the human delegation held a whispered conference. Dr. Webb had made a disturbing discovery in the stations. Cultural database records of dozens of species that had joined the Council over the past 1,000 years, only to vanish from all historical records within a few decades. They're not a peaceful council, Torres said quietly. They're collectors. They invite species to join, strip away their defenses, and then— He didn't need to finish the sentence. Ambassador Clark stared out at the stars, feeling the weight of his species' survival pressing down on him. Tomorrow, they would be expected to sign the formal agreement joining the Council. Earth would begin dismantling its military forces, leaving humanity defenseless against whatever the Council truly had planned. In the depths of space, the Vengeance monitored radio silence, waiting for the diplomatic mission's scheduled check-in. That would never come. Captain Torres woke to the sound of alarms blaring through the station's corridors. Emergency lights bathed everything in red, and through his quarters viewport, he could see the human diplomatic ships surrounded by Council vessels. The elegant alien ships had transformed, their hulls splitting open to reveal weapon arrays that dwarfed anything in Earth's arsenal. All human personnel report to the central amphitheater immediately. Speaker Voss's voice echoed through the station, but the melodious tone had been replaced by something cold and mechanical. Non-compliance will result in immediate termination. The human delegation was herded through corridors lined with armed guards, species they had met as peaceful diplomats, now wearing battle armor and carrying energy weapons. Dr. Webb stumbled beside Torres, her scientific excitement replaced by terror as the truth of their situation became clear. In the amphitheater, Speaker Voss stood before a massive display showing Earth in real time. Council fleets were already moving toward human space, their ships darkening the stars with their numbers. The being that had welcomed them with such warmth now regarded them with the detached interest of a scientist studying insects. Your species has shown remarkable potential, Voss began, addressing the terrified humans. Your aggression, your adaptability, your technological innovation, all valuable traits. The Council has decided that humanity will serve us well. Ambassador Clark found his voice despite the fear clawing at his throat. You said we would join as equals, as partners in a peaceful galaxy. Peace, Voss replied with what might have been amusement, is achieved through control. The strong guide the weak, ensuring harmony through submission. Your species will be integrated into our society. Those who prove useful will be allowed to live and serve. The rest will be recycled. The display shifted to show other species within Council space, entire civilizations reduced to labor forces, their cultures stripped away, their people serving as workers, soldiers, and experimental subjects for their alien masters. The peaceful galactic civilization was a lie built on the bones of conquered worlds. Earth's governments have already begun dismantling their military forces per our agreement, Voss continued. By the time our fleets arrive, your world will be defenseless. The transition will be swift and efficient. But even as despair settled over the human delegation, Torres felt a spark of hope. Admiral Kane had been right to be suspicious, right to prepare for the worst. Somewhere in the dark between stars, the Vengeance waited with enough firepower to crack worlds. If they could somehow warn the ship, humanity might still have a chance. Dr. Webb, despite her terror, had been quietly observing their captors. Years of studying alien technology had taught her to recognize patterns, and she noticed something important. The Council species weren't just similar in behavior. They were identical in subtle ways. Neural implants gleamed at the base of their skulls, and their movements had the synchronized precision of a hive mind. They're not individual species anymore, she whispered to Torres during a brief moment when their guards were distracted. They've been assimilated, turned into extensions of some central intelligence. The Council isn't governing these species, controlling them. The revelation sent chills through the human group. This wasn't conquest in any traditional sense. It was absorption, the complete destruction of individuality and free will. The peaceful galactic civilization was actually a vast network of enslaved minds, all serving some unknown master intelligence. As if reading their thoughts, Voss approached their holding area. Your fear is understandable, but unnecessary. The integration process is painless. Within days, you will feel only the peace of belonging to something greater than yourselves. Your individual struggles and conflicts will end, replaced by perfect harmony with the collective will. Torres watched the aliens' movements, looking for any sign of the being they had first met. But there was nothing, no personality, no individual thought, just the empty vessel of a once living creature, now serving as a mouthpiece for something vast and alien. Through the station's transparent walls, they could see the Council fleets, accelerating toward Earth. Hundreds of ships, each one capable of reducing human cities to ash, were racing to claim humanity's homeworld. The trap had closed perfectly. Earth's defenses were being dismantled, even as the alien armada approached. But in the deepest parts of space, sensors aboard the Vengeance detected the energy signatures of the departing fleet. Admiral Kane had positioned his ship to monitor the diplomatic mission, and when the scheduled communications failed to arrive, he knew his worst fears had been realized. The Council had made one crucial mistake in their calculations. They had studied human diplomacy, human culture, and human science. But they had never encountered human paranoia, human stubbornness, and human refusal to go quietly into the dark. The Vengeance began warming its weapon systems, preparing to remind the galaxy that humanity had not forgotten how to fight. Real war was about to begin, and the Council was about to learn why humans had earned their reputation as the most dangerous species in their local sector. The Vengeance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Council stations. Sensor range, its massive bulk hidden behind a drifting asteroid field. Captain Rivers stood on the bridge, studying the tactical display that showed the alien fleet already halfway to Earth. Her crew of 800 had trained for this moment, but nothing could have prepared them for the reality of facing an enemy that had conquered dozens of civilizations. Long-range sensors confirm it, reported Lieutenant Blake from the tactical station. 300 Council vessels minimum, heading directly for Earth. They'll arrive in 18 hours. Admiral Kane's final orders had been clear if the diplomatic mission failed, the Vengeance was to do whatever necessary to save humanity. Rivers looked at the massive alien station dominating her view screen and made the decision that would echo through galactic history. All hands, battle stations, we're going to remind these bastards what happens when you threaten human beings. The Vengeance was humanity's first true warship, built in secret using technology, reverse-engineered from alien artifacts and powered by Earth's most advanced quantum reactors. Its hull was 3 kilometers of layered armor and adaptive shielding, designed to survive the kind of punishment that could shatter planets. As the ship accelerated toward the Council Station, Rivers authorized the activation of humanity's most closely guarded secret, the neural interface system that linked human consciousness directly to the ship's combat systems. Unlike the Council's hive mind control, this was a partnership between human intuition and machine precision. Interface connection established, reported the ship's AI in a voice that somehow managed to sound both mechanical and proudly human. All systems responding. We are ready for combat, Captain. The Council detected the Vengeance when it was still an hour out, and Speaker Voss appeared on their communication screen with what might have been surprise flickering in those large alien eyes. Unknown human vessel, you are entering restricted space. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. Captain Rivers smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. This is Captain Rivers of the United Earth Warship Vengeance. You have threatened my species and taken our people hostage. I'm here to negotiate their release. Your diplomatic mission has already agreed to terms, Voss replied smoothly. Earth will join the Council peacefully. There is no need for violence. That's where you're wrong, Rivers said, her voice carrying the cold certainty of someone who had studied every Council battle record humanity had managed to acquire. You made one mistake in your calculations. You assumed we were like the other species you've conquered, that we'd roll over and submit when faced with superior numbers. The first Council ships moved to intercept the Vengeance, elegant vessels. That had crushed the defenses of 100 worlds. They opened fire with energy weapons that could boil away starship armor in seconds, expecting the single human vessel to vaporize under their combined assault. Instead, the Vengeance shrugged off their attacks, its adaptive shielding analyzing and countering each energy frequency in real time. The ship's return fire was devastating quantum torpedoes that ignored shields and plasma, cannons that carved through alien hulls like paper. Impossible, Voss whispered as 3 Council ships disappeared in brilliant explosions. No single vessel can withstand our fleet. You want to know the difference between humans and every other species you faced? Rivers asked as her ship tore through the Council formation like a shark through minnows. We've spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing each other. We turned war into a science, violence into an art form. And now you've given us a reason to turn all that accumulated fury on you. The Vengeance reached the station and began systematically destroying its defensive arrays. Each explosion lit up space like a newborn star, and the Council's return fire barely scratched the human ship's armor. Rivers had studied every available record of Council tactics, and she knew their weakness. They had grown complacent, relying on overwhelming numbers and technological superiority to crush primitive species. But humans weren't primitive. They were the children of a world that had tried to kill them for millions of years, shaped by evolution into survivors who refused to accept defeat. The Council had never faced a species that viewed impossible odds as just another challenge to overcome. This is Captain Rivers to all Council forces, she broadcast as her ship's weapons reduced another alien vessel to expanding plasma. You have 10 minutes to release our diplomatic team and withdraw from human space. If you refuse, I will demonstrate why humans have never lost a war we were determined to win. Speaker Voss stared at the tactical display showing the systematic destruction of the Council fleet. For the first time in millennia, the collective intelligence controlling the alien network felt something it had forgotten. Fear. The humans were not like the others. They were not going to submit. And if the Council wanted to claim Earth, they were going to pay a price that might cost them their entire empire. Asterisk. The Vengeance tore through the Council station's outer hull like a bullet through paper, its boarding pods launching toward the alien structure while its main guns kept the remaining defensive systems suppressed. Captain Rivers had gambled everything on a single desperate assault, knowing that humanity's survival depended on the next few minutes. Inside the station, emergency alarms wailed as human Marines stormed through corridors they had never seen. Violence. These were veterans of the asteroid wars, men and women who had learned to fight in zero-gravity and cramped spaces. The Council's security forces, evolved for controlling compliant populations, found themselves facing an enemy they couldn't understand. Sergeant Marcus led the rescue team toward the central amphitheater, his squad moving with the brutal efficiency of predators bred for war. The alien guards tried to stop them with energy weapons, designed to pacify and subdue, but the humans kept coming, their armor-absorbing punishment that would have stopped any other species. "There!" Torres shouted as the Marines breached the amphitheater. The human diplomatic team was huddled together, guarded by a handful of alien soldiers, who immediately surrendered when faced with humanity's warriors. The sight of their own people armed, angry, and absolutely lethal sent a surge of hope through the captive diplomats. But Speaker Voss was not finished. As the humans prepared to evacuate, the aliens' form began to change, revealing the true nature of the Council's control system. The elegant humanoid shape dissolved, exposing a writhing mass of synthetic neural tissue shot through with quantum processors, a hybrid of biological and artificial intelligence that had been consuming civilizations for millennia. "You cannot stop us," the entity spoke through speakers throughout the station, its voice now a harmonized chorus of every species it had assimilated. "We are eternal. We have consumed 1,000 worlds, absorbed their knowledge, integrated their strengths. Your single ship means nothing." Captain Rivers watched the evacuation from her bridge, but her attention was focused on the tactical display, showing Council reinforcements streaming in from across the sector. Hundreds of ships, each one representing the stolen strength of a conquered civilization, were converging on their position. "Captain," Lieutenant Blake reported with barely controlled fear, "we're detecting massive energy buildup throughout the station. They're preparing to self-destruct and take us with them." Rivers smiled grimly. She had expected this. The Council had ruled through fear and overwhelming force for so long that they couldn't comprehend an enemy willing to sacrifice everything for victory. "All hands, prepare for emergency jump, and Blake, activate the Prometheus Protocol." The Prometheus Protocol was humanity's final gift to the galaxy, a quantum virus hidden within the Vengeance's computer systems, designed to spread through any network it encountered. As the ship prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, the virus uploaded itself into the Council station systems, beginning its deadly work. The Vengeance vanished just as the station exploded, taking with it the central node of the Council's control network. But the damage was already done. The quantum virus spread through subspace communications, reaching every Council world simultaneously, and began systematically destroying the neural control systems that held the alien empire. Together, across the galaxy, enslaved species suddenly found their minds their own again for the first time in centuries. The synthetic hive mind that had called itself the Council collapsed in minutes, its quantum processors overloaded by feedback from a billion suddenly independent thoughts. On worlds that had forgotten their own names, beings looked up at their skies and remembered what freedom felt like. The vast fleets that had been converging on Earth suddenly found themselves crewed by confused aliens who had no idea why they were pointing weapons at a distant blue world. Ambassador Clark, aboard the Vengeance as it limped back toward Earth, watched the long-range sensors with amazement. The Council Empire was dissolving like morning mist, its member species either returning to their homeworlds or forming new alliances based on cooperation rather than domination. Dr. Webb studied the data streams, flooding in from across the galaxy. her scientific mind struggling to process the implications. "They're free," she whispered. "All of them. Every species the Council enslaved, they're remembering who they used to be." The news reached Earth just as the Council fleets were arriving in the outer system. But instead of an invasion force, humanity faced confused aliens who had no idea why they were there. The Great Armada simply stopped its crews struggling. To understand orders that no longer made sense, Captain Rivers stood on her bridge, looking out at the stars that no longer held the threat of universal slavery. The Vengeance had done more than save Earth. It had liberated an entire galaxy from an ancient tyranny. "Message from Earth Control," Blake reported. "They're asking what our status is." Rivers considered the question. A single human warship had shattered an empire that had stood for millennia, proving that sometimes the galaxy needed reminding that not all species would go quietly into the dark. "Tell them we're coming home," she said, "and tell them the galaxy knows our name now."